ADF applications to Oracle Cloud. I want to take this time to point out that this webcast is a live presentation of an Oracle by example, an OBE tutorial of the same name. And I'll paste the URL to the tutorial in the chat window. So if you would like to follow along, look at what I'm presenting as I'm presenting it, you can go to that link that I posted to the chat window. Excuse me, this is the standard Oracle Safe Harbor notice. Basically, it states that this webcast does not imply a contract between us, and that what I'm presenting today should not be used to make any purchasing decisions. Okay, to get the most out of this webcast, I am assuming that you have some experience with Eclipse. Ideally, you have some experience with ADF and Java Enterprise Edition. But if you don't worry about that. You can use this webcast to kind of get a feel for Eclipse as an IDE, or potentially to get a feel for the types of tools that Oracle offers through the OEPE and how to use ADF to create applications and create database schemas with Oracle Cloud, which is really the focus of this presentation. So for this webcast, I have already installed in my local system here the Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse, this specific version, 12.1.1.2. This version number is kind of important. This is the version of OEPE that's specifically designed for use with Oracle Cloud. I also have installed Oracle SQL Developer, which we'll use a little bit later to copy the local schema from an Oracle database to the Oracle Database Cloud Service. I've also installed the Oracle Java Cloud Service SDK, which is part of a download set required to work with Oracle Java Cloud Service. And then lastly, I have an instance of the Oracle Cloud trial version. Now before we continue, I'm going to ask Gary to put up a couple of polling questions here to get to kind of gauge your experience level with Java SE and EE and with ADF. So please take the time to complete those surveys, and I'll continue along as you're doing that. One last thing I want to mention about the software. One of the advantages of working with Oracle is that all of this software, the Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse, SQL Developer, the Cloud Service SDK, even the Oracle Cloud itself in trial version is all available to developers for free under what's called a developer license. So this allows you to learn how to work with these products and gather some experience before you or your company decides to make any purchase decisions. So I'm sure by now you've heard the term cloud. It's pretty much become a buzzword in the industry. It's certainly become the standard by which all things cool are being judged. You know, do you have something in the cloud? And one of the things that's important to understand is that a cloud comes really in three different flavors. One of those is infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. The second is platform as a service, or PaaS. And the last one is software as a service. And what this graphic depicts here is the relative functionality of each of these different cloud types. So each of these different clouds provides a certain amount of technology that represents a service level for each of these clouds. So an example of these various different clouds, and a good example of an IaaS is Amazon's EC2. A good example of a software as a service, completely the other end of the spectrum, is Salesforce, which I'm sure you've heard of since Oracle now has a relationship with Salesforce. And in the middle, and the one that we're going to look at today, this is really the realm of the Oracle Cloud and others, but Oracle Cloud is a platform as a service. So as a platform as a service, Oracle Cloud actually has several different components, platform services that it provides to you as a developer. It has a database service over here. It has a Java service here in the middle. And as with these two components, it provides the functionality to produce applications that consume or create web services, RESTful services, ADF services, and all of that is controlled by the Java Cloud Service and includes an identity management component. So it has a fully capable application server instance running in a remote location in the cloud that allows you to create applications that can be then deployed on the web, on a mobile device, as an office application, or even to another cloud in case you have one cloud communicating with another cloud. So the Oracle, by example, tutorial that's the basis for this webcast, in that tutorial you'll find a link to download OEPE, again the Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse. So let me just state that Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse is a Eclipse distribution. In fact, it's Eclipse 3.8, and they all have names. So this particular one is called Juno. And that distribution is integrated with WebLogic Server, Cloud, and ADF components, which makes it basically fully functional to do the types of things we want to do today. Today we're going to write an application on a local system, do all the development locally, and then deploy that application to the cloud as sort of our production system. So this follows the typical model, I think, for working with cloud, where you would work locally, do all your testing, all your development, have it even potentially, tested within your organization, and then move it as a tested application to the cloud. So in this webcast, what we're going to do is follow that model, that development model. We're going to look at a created application. We're going to take that application and we're going to run it locally. We're going to pretend that the development has already happened. I'll walk through the application, show you what it is. It's a simple ADF application. As you can see from the picture, it has 3 panels. One of the panels has information about departments. The center panel has information about employees. And then the third panel has a pie chart graph to display the salaries of the employees in a particular department. So it's nothing complex or overly complicated, but it does illustrate both the use of ADF components in an ADF application, and it also is taking the data and recording the data to an actual database. So we're going to move that database, the schema and all of its data, to the cloud. That will be part of what we'll do in this webcast. And then we'll deploy the application to the cloud, as if we were doing a production deployment of this particular application. Okay, so let's get started. Let me share out my desktop here. There we go. Okay. So here I have the Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse running and installed. Again, all of the download information for you to download this particular instance of OEPE is in the tutorial that I pasted the link to in the chat. And I'll do that again at the end for those of you who join a little bit later. So I have it running here on my laptop. This is a Windows 7 laptop. I also have running in the background a local instance of an Oracle XE database. And it's been populated with the sample HR database schema. So let's start by running or starting my local Oracle WebLogic server instance. I have it installed already, but it's not running. So I'll go ahead and start that. That'll take a few minutes to get going. Down here in the bottom part of the window, you can see the progress that the application is starting. And what I'll do while that's running is I'll go ahead and I will open up the HR test application and import it into my workspace here. So to do that, I'm going to click on File and then Import. I'm going to import an existing project into the workspace. I need to browse to where it is. I put it into my C:temp directories to make it easier to find. Okay, there it is. It has 3 components. I want all those components to come in. You can decide whether or not you want to leave the components where they are or copy them into the workspace. I'm going to go ahead and copy it into the workspace. It just makes it a little, it just makes a copy of it from where it is into the workspace, which is fine for this particular application. Okay, and down the bottom here in the window, see if I can get an annotation tool here so you can see it more clearly. So down here at the bottom, actually went by quickly there, but you can see that the server is now in the running mode. Okay, so now my WebLogic server instance is running. And if I come back here to the top, that WebLogic is now started and running. Okay, so let's look at this software a little bit. First of all, let's look at the model. The model represents the objects that I'm planning to use in this application, all of the data. So if I look inside here at the source packages, you can see that I have some Java Beans, enterprise Java Beans, to communicate with my persistence in the background, in this case my database. I have 2 objects that I'm going to be working with. One is a department object. Let me open this up. The department object simply represents an entity in my database. In this case, it represents the departments in my database. And likewise, employee represents the employees table and the employees entity in my database. So those are the objects that I'm going to be working with in this application. Down here in the web part of the application, this is where these are the components that actually work with the front end. So these are the JSPX files that will run in my web browser. So if I look at, if I look down here at the web content, you see that I'm using a 3-column template. This is a standard ADF template. I have a JSPX file. Again, this is, I'll open this up. This is simply the user interface component to my application. We're using standard ADF tags. So we're using that page template that I mentioned. We have, as I said, 3 different columns. We're putting some information into each of those different columns from the various tables. The employees go into the center. The departments go into the left. And finally, I have a binding in here to a pie chart graph. Again, if you're unfamiliar with ADF, that's okay. This is more background information on how ADF works. It should look familiar to you if you've ever programmed with Java server faces. There's a lot of similarities between Java server faces and the application development framework, or ADF. Anyway, what we want to do at this point is basically just to run this thing. We have an application that works. We've already done all the development. So now let's just go ahead and test it, and we'll test it locally. So I'm going to click on the employee list JSPX file, and I'm going to run this on one of my servers. Now the server I want to use right now is my local WebLogic server instance. So I'll simply click Finish here. And this will go ahead and start the application in a browser. Again, down the bottom here, if I can highlight this before it finishes. Down the bottom here, we can see the status of the publishing to the web server. So this takes a little while. This is not something that I could preload really. Just give it a few minutes. There we go. So now the application has starting to load. Notice that it opened in a browser. In this case, I've asked it to open in my my Chrome browser. And it's taking its sweet time. Here we go. It's loading the data from the database. It's fetched the data from the database, and now the application is up and running. So let me change this a little bit so it's easier to see. Okay, so in this department, in the administration department, we only have one employee. If you go to the next department, I actually have 2 employees, and we fetched the data to get their salary information and do this little pie chart with this cool little rotate animation. Let me show you that again. So it rotates in. So all of this functionality, all of the capability that I'm showing you here are standard ADF components. The table in the center, the pie chart with even the rollovers, the buttons here, and the capability of loading the data from the database. These are all part of standard ADF components. So what we want to do next is to take the data. Now that we've determined that this application works the way we wanted it to, what we want to do next is to take the data from our database, our local database, and move it, or copy it rather, to the Oracle database cloud service. So to do that, I'm going to open another tool. I'm going to open the Oracle SQL Developer tool. And in SQL Developer, I have several connections here. I'm going to open a connection up to my local HR database. So I went out to my local Oracle XE database instance. It fetched the data, and here it is. So if I look at the tables in the database, I have countries, departments, employees, job history, jobs, locations, all sorts of information. Of all of these tables, the only 2 that I'm really using are departments and employees for this simple application. So we'll move that data over. We'll bring that data over to the Oracle database cloud instance. So let me close this up a little bit. First thing we need to do is to create a connection to my Oracle database cloud service. And by the way, this particular instance of Oracle SQL Developer is enabled to work with cloud. That's why I got this neat little cloud connections icon here. So let me create a new connection to my Oracle database cloud. Okay, the username is my email. But the URL is a piece of data that I actually need from my Oracle Cloud instance itself. So let's go there. And I'm going to log into my trial account. I'm going to sign into my services. And I'm going to enter my username and the password. And here are my two services. This is a trial account of Oracle Cloud. Within my trial account, I have two services. I have a database service and I have a Java service. Database service is a cloud-based Oracle database, and the Java service is a cloud-based WebLogic server instance. So what I need is information from my database instance. Specifically, I need to know the host name of the instance. So I'm going to grab this URL right here, copy it, and I'm going to paste it into this connection. Next, it says, what is the SFTP, the secure FTP username and hostname? So again, let's go back to the Oracle database cloud information. Scroll down a little bit, and here I can see that the secure FTP, the service that does the secure FTP, the host for that is this information right here, sftp.us1, blah, blah, blah. Let's copy that and paste it into hostname. And then finally, the username is this specific user account name within my Oracle Cloud instance. So I'm going to copy that and paste it here. And finally, one of the things I hope you noticed is the port number is actually 22, not 222, so I'll change that, and I'll click OK. Now, I've created a connection. I am not yet connected to that database. What I need to do to connect to the database is to actually open it or connect to it. Here I'll put in my credentials for my database cloud service, which is the same as my Oracle Cloud service. Oops, didn't enter the data correctly. Typing too fast. There we go. So if I look at my connection, I can see all of the tables that are part of my database cloud service. So there are some tables that do come with the trial service by default. So I have demo constraint lookup, demo, blah, 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 department employee. But I really want my local data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy or bring over the data from my local instance into my Oracle Cloud instance. So in order to do that, I'm going to use one of the cool little tools inside of Oracle SQL Developer. I'm going to use the cart. So let me click on View and select Cart. Okay, let's make this a little bigger. So the cart allows me to move data between two different instances of two different databases. This is probably one of the coolest tools, I think, in Oracle SQL Developer. But it's also now been changed so that I can move data not only between two different local databases, or local or remote. I can also remove data from a local database instance, in this case my local XE instance, to my cloud instance. And it really could not be simpler to use. I simply take the tables that I want. In this case, I would like to take the department data and the employee data and I drag them down onto the cart. By default, I'm going to copy over the data definition language. I'm going to copy over the schema, all of the information necessary to construct these two tables in whatever remote site I want them to go. But I also want the data to go over. So by simply checking this box data, I'm now going to send the data as well as the schema over. Notice I have a little icon to deploy to my cloud. I simply click that button, and I can copy the schema and the data over to my cloud connection. I'll give this deployment a title. We'll call it HRDB copy. I already have the server that it's going to and the port number. I have the SFTP password, SFTP username. I do need to enter a separate password for that secure FTP account. So let me go ahead and do that. I have some choices about how to transfer the information. I'm just going to use a zip file. And on the other end, I can decide whether or not I want to replace any existing objects or not replace existing objects. If they don't exist currently, it doesn't matter. I think as a good rule of thumb, you probably want to replace existing destination objects, assuming that you're basically doing an upgrade from a local database to the remote database. So then we'll click Apply. Oh, it's going to ask me a question about whether I want to overwrite my zip file. I'll say yes. And it starts running in the background. Now, while that's running here, let's run that in the background. While that's running, let me scroll down here and show you how it's being deployed. That I have some status here about its deployment. I don't know if you can see it because it's way at the bottom of my screen here, but I'll double click this. This shows me the status basically of the deployment as it's happening. So right now the status is approved. If I refresh this log, eventually it will go from approved to processed, indicating that it has moved over the schema, and then it has populated those two tables with data. So let's see if that's happened yet. I'll click on refresh. Okay, let's do that one more time. Not quite there yet. Okay, well, while that's happening, let's do this one more time. While that may be taking some time to refresh the status here, let's actually go back to the tables. I'm going to click on tables here and refresh my tables and see if they've appeared yet. No, okay. So it's still on its way over there. Well, we can also check the status here in the database itself, in the database cloud service. I can go to my data resources. Let's launch a service. Okay, I can open up the SQL workshop, and this will tell me all of the current information about my database cloud service. So I can see what objects have been, what tables have been created recently and when they've been created. I can get information about, I can run a specific SQL command. There's a lot of information that I can process with the interface to the database cloud service. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Look at the log. There they are. Okay, good. Second time was the charm. So here's my departments and my employees. So we successfully brought over the data. Now that I've done that, I can run my application in the Oracle Java Cloud Server instance. So let's go back to OEPE here. But before I can do that, one of the things that I want to point out is let's go back up and look at the model for my local version. If I look at the persistence.xml file, persistence.xml file is a persistence unit definition, and it describes how the information is being transferred between the database and my application. So what I need to look at here is the connection. What type of connection am I using with this persistence unit? So right now, the application is using a resource local transaction type, which means that it's using a JDBC driver, and you can see that down here, oracle.jdbc.oracle driver, to communicate with my local XE instance. That obviously is not going to work in the cloud. What I want to do in the cloud is to use a Java transaction API rather than a resource local API. I need to use a container. So I'm simply going to change that from resource local to JTA, and I need to specify the JTA data source. To show you that, let's go back to my cloud information. Look at my database details again. The service name for the JTA is database. So that's what I want to enter into this information about where to get the data from in my cloud deployed application. So I'm simply going to type database here. I'll save my persistence.xml. And now I'm going to run this application on a server. But this time, instead of running it locally, I'm actually going to run it on my cloud instance. Again, this little window down here in the bottom is very valuable to sort of tell you what the status is. So right now, it's telling me that it's publishing to Oracle Cloud at 0%. In a few seconds, that'll change to more than 0%. You know, sometimes it goes from 0 to 50, almost to 100 all at once. And I can actually look at the information about how this deployment is happening by looking at the log files. I can either do it here, by the way, through Eclipse, or I can actually look at it online as well. Let me show you that. I'm going to go to my database, to my Java Cloud Service. Oh, well, while I was going to show you the status, it actually opened up the application in my cloud service. That's why I got this pop-up window in Chrome. So it's loading the application. Now it's actually running the application. Now, if I was not already logged into my Java Cloud Service, I would have to log in first. I'd have to go through the single sign-on that I showed you earlier when I logged into the Cloud Service. But in this case, because I'm already authenticated, we went right into the application. So here's the application. You can see by the URL I'm actually running in my cloud application. I'm not running this locally. There's the identity domain for my cloud service. I'm running in the Oracle Cloud Apps website. So again, if I move to the next row of data in the departments. I open up the department salaries, and I display that information in the pie chart. Okay, same thing. I'm going to keep going. And the performance, as you can see, is about the same whether I'm running it locally or whether I'm running it through the cloud. The benefit, of course, of running it in the cloud is that I'm not using any local resources, and anyone who has a single sign-on can use this application. So that's what I wanted to demonstrate for you today, basically how to take an application, run it locally, potentially develop it locally, run it locally, and then deploy it and the data to your Oracle Cloud instance. My sort of task for you is to go take a look at the tutorial. Again, let me take the URL, and at this time I will paste it into the chat again. Okay, so that's the URL for the OBE that I demonstrated today. So I would recommend that you go to Oracle or cloud.oracle.com and request a 30-day free trial service of Oracle Cloud and try out this webcast. So let's go back to the slides for a minute. A couple more things I wanted to show you. And we have a couple more polling questions for you at this time. If you can cue those up, Gary. Thank you. So this picture is a picture of the Oracle Learning Library website. It's a collection of free demonstrations and tutorials. Covers a broad range of subjects. The one I covered today is part of this collection. To go to the Oracle Learning Library, there's a very simple URL. It is oracle.com/OLL. And again, I'll paste that in the chat. Another resource specifically for Oracle Cloud is the Oracle Cloud Learning Center. And I'll also put that URL into the chat window. There you go. And the Oracle Cloud Learning Center is a great resource for information specifically about working with the cloud. This OB that I demonstrated today, as I mentioned a few times now, is part of the Oracle Learning Library, but it's also part of the series. The series covers working with Oracle Cloud and with Eclipse, specifically with the Oracle Enterprise Pack for Eclipse. We also offer other series that cover how to work with Oracle Cloud and JDeveloper, and how to work with Oracle Cloud and NetBeans. So I want to thank you for attending today. I'll take a look and see if there's any questions.
Hey, thanks a lot, Tom. And if there's any questions, Tom will deal with those now, and he'll get them. He'll answer them right online. We're just about out of time here, so Tom will be checking chat for any questions. Do you see any, Tom?
Yeah, I don't see any questions at this time, Gary.
All right. I'd like to mention again, if you're interested in playing back this webcast, there was one attendee that couldn't get any sound, a problem on his laptop. It is being recorded, and it'll take roughly a day to get that recording loaded into OLL. But if you want to see that recording, just access OLL, search for the recording by title, and you should be able to find that and play it back. So I want to thank you all for coming, and thank you, Tom, for a good presentation. And stay tuned, via your email for any upcoming OLL Live presentations. And you can also see the schedule if you go directly to OLL and look for the OLL Live calendar. Thanks again, and hope you all have a good day.